Hello YouTube and Blender enthusiasts. This is Firebird854 and today I'd like to bring you a demo of foliage. And I'm just going to create a simple scene, well, just a simple object. I have a branch, some maple leaves coming off of it, and this can be adapted to use in everything from bushes to trees, and it just has many uses and goes over many core concepts of Blender. So first thing I'm going to do is just start off with your basic default scene, and right here is your default cube. And so let's delete the cube. Bye bye. And then we want to create a Bezier curve. It's a weird French term, very hard to pronounce. I actually had to look it up again before this video. So then we just want to tab over into edit mode, and it gives us these nice handles to work with. And so first let's just grab this one, move it over a bit, and we can use many of the same shortcuts that we can actually use while deforming and having fun with traditional mesh, including E for extrude. And so this right here is actually a fantastic start to a branch. All we need to do is maybe straighten that out a bit, and we have, well, a nice little fork right here. Just duplicate that handle out using Shift D. And then of course extrude, do a little rotation, another little rotation, and look at this, we already have a wonderfully forking branch. And of course we can always give it a little 3D aspect by moving these up and down. Now to get to a more fun part of it, if you head over into your object data and the little curvy symbol up here, you can actually click on, let's see, we want to go full. So fill, under fill there's an option full, and if we check that, then we can use bevel and actually pull this out. So then we get something that looks very similar to our branch. And to have a little more fun with it, we can hit Alt S on the various points, so we can take an endpoint right there and make it a little smoother so it really looks like it's starting out bigger and going smaller. We can also hit Alt S on this one and bring that down. And then there we go, we have something that's really looking like a branch here. We can even move this around and see that little object deform accordingly. Looks pretty nice. So then the next thing that we want to do is take this and press Alt C. And then from what we get here, we have a convert to option. We can convert curve from mesh. We don't want that. We want a mesh from the curve. Very, very useful shortcut right there. That's Alt C. So then we can tab over into our polygonal mesh. Now this takes a little time. This is why I don't quite want to add too many branches coming off of it. We should just, well, let's first slide around these. We can hit Shift V to slide these vertices around, and you kind of see why, but let's just slide these a bit closer to these two outer vertices. And then we just want to delete this one quick, that little pointy one coming out there. And now a very useful aspect of Blender is just its ability to merge. So if you hit Alt M, and then considering I chose the one I want to merge to last, I can hit at last, and then it merged accordingly. Very nice procedure right there. We can just follow suit with the remaining vertices. Look at that go. And then with the very fine spaces left over, we can just hit Control Tab, go into Edge Select mode, and then just start filling in those spaces with the shortcut F. Very nice shortcut, one of the defining features in my opinion. There we go, we have a nice branch coming off of it. We can even make this look a little better. If you use Control R, you can actually slide out a couple edge loops here. And then you can just mess with the size a little. There we go. It's looking pretty nice right there. So now you might be asking yourself, how do we add a texture? Because we want this to actually look like a block. Well, have block on it. So let's just split the window, and then split the window a second time. And I'm going to move this split window into a UV image editor. Then I'm going to move this split window into a node editor. And these are this is a very common interface if you've ever used this before. So this one you can look around very nicely, and what we want to do is start cutting up some seams. So if we hold Alt and hit one of these edge loops, very nicely, it goes right up to this fork in the road. And we can just hit Control E right there, mark a seam. We can hit Alt right there and then select another edge loop, and it should go right to the end. And then we can just hit Control E again, and then mark that seam as well. Now, a very useful little thing is to create a loop around the end here. And excellent, we can just mark that seam. So now we already have a pretty nice seam structure coming out here, and we can just repeat the process and have this one all done. Remember, if you hold Alt and right click on one of those edge loops, you can select the whole edge loop. Pretty convenient. So now once we're done marking the seams, it's a good idea to take these end edge loops and just Alt M them, or merge them at their centers. Not at the origin. Yeah, that was that cursor. At center. We can pull those out a bit because, you know, they're coming to an absolute point. Gotta be careful with orthographic here. Okay, now if we select the entire object, hit U and unwrap it, we have it right here, unwrapped pretty nicely. We can just move that, rotate that around, and scale it appropriately to fit a nice scene right there. And so instead of just laying a texture underneath it, I'm going to do a pretty common practice and actually paint the texture on. So instead of just opening an image to lay right there, we hit New Image, and we can just go 2048, and this is the resolution width in pixels, and that is the resolution height in pixels. Then if we just hit OK, we can zoom it out. Now there's several different modes with the newest Blender. I believe this is 2.67, and one of the modes is, instead of View, we can actually hit Paint. And now in the paint mode, if we hit N, we can see some of our paint options right here. We can hit texture, and we can check out some of our textures. So now if we actually head over into our texture panel and click on our paintbrush, we can navigate down to image, and then we can pull up a picture of bark. I'm not going to make it seamless for you guys. You could probably find a seamless picture of bark all over the internet, or take GIMP and make it seamless. But this is a seamless piece of bark that I can then texture accordingly. So I'm just going to make this a little bigger. Unfortunately, it only lets me go so big inside the UV image editor. So let's just bump this up to, say, 400. Ah, that's perfect. Now if you hit Control F, you can actually rotate your paintbrush, which is very convenient. You can slide up here. Nice. It's a little off. Control F again, make sure we got a nice diagonal going on here. There we go. Now it's doing what I want it to do. And we have a good texture going. And if you guys are following along, you should have a pretty similar texture. Another great place to actually grab textures is cgtextures.com. I'll just pull that up quick and I'll show you. That's actually where I obtained this bark from. You have rights to all of these textures, and you can just go right down to bark and choose your pick, because let me tell you, there are plenty. So this website right here is cgtextures.com. Fantastic resource for acquiring various textures that you need to use for basically anything to make it look realistic. So in any case, we can just pack this in as a PNG. Nice and convenient. We don't need to go save as somewhere. We can retitle this High. Or, well, more accurately, bark. In any case, now we can go over to our node setup, and we can hit Cycles Render. And let's hit these nodes and add a material type. There we go. We can see our diffuse material. And let's quickly just add an image texture under the diffuse. And we can just pull up bark. Well, neither one of those seem to be precisely the one that I was working with, but we can check to make sure. Oh, nope, this one is this one up here. Excellent, it did save it. So let's get out of edit mode so we can see this better. Now you may notice that it's a bit jagged, and you may be tempted to make this a subsurface object, but something that I found that's a little better than a subsurface object is the multi-resolution modifier. If we hit this and hit subdivide and keep this under Catmull clock algorithm, then it does a nice smoothing effect. And the very nice thing about the smoothing effect is you can subdivide this a few times, and if it gets a little heavy in the scene, you can actually down the previews but let the render still stay high. So then some cool things you can do with this is actually also add it's under deform, a displacement modifier. It'll look a little crazy at first, but check out what you can do with this. You can go into your textures, hit a new texture, head into your textures tab, hit image or movie, and then navigate to that block. And now if you travel back to your displace modifier, you can change this to UV coordinates. We obviously have to down the strength a lot. That's looking pretty decent. Now if we up the subdivide some more, let me just get out of material mode so you can see this better. It is actually giving this a very, very nice real texture. That's not a displaced fake shadow texture. That is a real texture. So if you didn't want to use this in a video game and you wanted to make some very realistic looking artwork, well, here's a way to do it. In any case though, then you can just down this in the preview window, but it will still look nice and displaced upon render. And if you wanted to, you can also take the image texture and you can drag this color panel all the way over to displacement, and then just add under converter, we add a math node and just change this to multiply. And then we can just take this up to like 0.7. And then we have also a nice displacement map underneath, so we get some really nice texture going on. And then when we add in the real texture with the displacement underneath, we get a very nice looking effect here. In fact, if I just select my lamp and turn that to a sun quick, you'll really see where I'm going here. Look at that texture. Good stuff. So now we have a really nice branch going on. It looks like a real branch. So how do we make the leaves? Well, I have to say the best place to start has got to be a plane. Most things come from planes. The branch came from a curve, but here is a nice plane. So let's hop over into edit mode, hit Control R, and then we can give this a couple more edge loops. Go up into our not 7. There we go. Couple of edge loops in there. And a really easy way to get a UV map from this object is simply to go project from view. And if you do this from top view, you're going to notice that it comes out as a very nice rectangle. You could also easily do you could maybe do a cube projection or a smart UV or just a plain on unwrap. Any of them seem to work, but for this particular one I prefer the project view from bounds, because bounds will actually make it travel to the edge. In any case, what you want to do is open up an image for this one, because you really can't paint on a leaf unless you're very good. So let's just take leaf front. You can actually make double-sided leaves, one with a backside and a front side. However, you have to find matching leaf pictures, and it can be very time-consuming and annoying. In any case, though, so now we have this nice leaf picture up here, and it all seems to match up accordingly. Yeah, works. So we can take this and add it to our material. So let's add a material for this object, and this gets to be a pretty complicated material type to actually get the settings set up quite how we want it. So let's get to work here. We want to get our node editor nice and big, because this will take a little effort. Let's delete the diffuse shader. We really want a transparent shader, so let me just select this over here, because I can never seem to find that in the node editor. So we can stick this up on top, and then we can connect. Now let's get a mix shader in here. We also need our mix shader. Let's just get these all out on the board quick. We need a textual coordinate, if I can find it. There we go. For a nice UV. We need our image texture. And we need a diffuse. Let's just add this here quick. Easier to find. And now to link these all up accordingly, we bring the UV to this vector for the image texture. And then we take the color from image texture and we go to our bottom mixer. It really doesn't matter. It's just my preference. No, I'm sorry. We take the color and we go to the bottom diffuse. Aha. We can pull these out a bit because this could look a little hodgepodge. And then we take the diffuse and we go to the shader. We take the alpha and we go to the FAC. And FAC is for factor. That's factoring in how much mixing. And we just have the alpha of the actual image texture contain that information. And so the last thing we want to do is just add in the transparent. Now, this is where it gets a little hairy. You could choose a picture that has white instead of alpha around the image, and then you'd want to keep this on just white with the alpha all the way up. However, you could also choose a picture that's black around the edges. Then you want to turn the color all the way down, and this, by the way, decides what part of the picture is transparent. And so what I'm doing right now is a white picture with no alpha. So there's no alpha around here. We just want to hook up the shader to the surface material. And this also leads me to show you that you can take this, put a displacement, put the color to the displacement, and add a math converter. Bring that down, take this to multiply, add maybe like, I don't know, 0.7. And then we can take a look at this. Sometimes it doesn't appear into the rendered view. Oh, I never selected the texture. There we are. Let me just take my camera and give this a try. And there we have it. We have a leaf and a branch. And now it's a simple matter of duplicating. So you can take this, maybe just, well, deform it a bit so it doesn't look so funny. Because who wants a flat leaf? Seriously. And proportional editing is your friend. I'm not gonna lie. And you get to proportional editing by pressing O, or going over here and you can actually choose your fall off. Very, very helpful tool. And then it gives you this nice big circle that you can affect more or less of the object. So we just want to create like a nice leaf shape. Bring that in. That's looking pretty leafy to me. I have to make sure I have the right side. Ah, excellent. We have to come out of edit mode to see the changes in rendered view. Yeah, see now we have a nice 3D aspect to it. Okay, I'm going to take this and maybe just... Oh, one little helpful tip for this. We can see that in rendered view, we have the stem right here. And so it's a lot easier to line up on the branch if you actually go and you press Control R and you get a nice edge loop stuck in the middle. And then you go over to your vertex view, you grab that edge loop and then you hit Shift S and you take your cursor to selected. And then you get out of edit mode, you hit origin, and then you do origin to 3D cursor. So now your object will rotate on that stem and you always know where that stem is from that little dot that signifies the origin. So you can even tab over here into edit mode onto your branch, grab say this little spot right there, think maybe that could really use a leaf, looks lonely. And then you can place your cursor at selected. And then you can take this object, hit Shift S and do selection to cursor. And then look at that, lines up perfectly. You can rotate that in the Z axis. Maybe move to the top view, place that nice and inside there. And let's just rotate that down a bit. And let's take a look with our camera. And you see, now we have one leaf springing off just nicely. And this is looking very similar to our finished project that I showed you earlier. It just takes a little finagling now to get it exactly where you want it. But if you follow the steps of this tutorial, you know exactly the steps to make basically any kind of foliage you want. You can make everything from bushes to apple trees. Have fun.
Videos are just the beginning. Check out these other great websites for great content from the Computer Clan, and subscribe for more great videos from Real Deal Productions.